refreshing the data. When you've created a pivot table or a pivot chart from a list of data, like we've done here, so here is our list, and then in the summary tab I've got the pivot table and the pivot chart. It's important to note that if you're in the data tab and you make a change to any of the information in the list data, that the pivot table and the pivot chart don't automatically update. That's quite unusual in Excel. Nearly always we're used to things automatically updating because calculations on the norm would automatically update. So it's important to note that if you make a change to the list, that the data that's in your table and in your chart need to be manually refreshed. So in here, let's say for example I change a sale for laptops here. So in the North region we have a laptop sale that's currently at 5,000. Just to see this change, I'm going to update this to 120,000. Now this is a massive change in data, so I just want to show you that it hasn't updated when we go into the summary sheet. So in the summary sheet, if we were to look at North laptops, we can see that 120,000 has not been added to this total. So I can tell you now that the table and the chart has not updated or refreshed itself automatically. In order to refresh the data, the easiest thing to do is to right-click anywhere inside the data table, and then there is an option to refresh. If you click on this, all of the data within the table will then automatically refresh. So we can see now the North for laptops has been updated to 137,000, which is more correct. And as soon as we refresh the table, we can see now that the chart has automatically updated as well. So just to show you that again, if I go back to the data in my sheet, if I make a change, let's say I bring this back to say something more realistic like 5,600. And when I go into the summary sheet, which has my pivot table, I can see that it hasn't been updated yet. So I right click and I press the refresh button in order to update my data immediately. By refreshing the table, you're automatically refreshing the chart as well. Within the options, we have here, for example, pivot table options. So pivot table tools, options tab, and you come over here into options. There is an option which would allow you to automatically refresh every time a change has been made. To find that, we click up here and here you'll see there's an option in the data tab that says refresh the data when opening the file. This is off by default, so you'll notice there I've turned that on. That's just handy because every time you open this document, it will perform the refresh data option. So it just might mean in case you forget to refresh when you open it, that's one way of reminding yourself or it doing it automatically for you. However, if the file is open and you make changes, then you still have to refresh the data yourself manually. So just to recap of where I did to turn that on is I click inside the pivot table, I go to my options tab and I click on options. And in here we went into the data tab and I turned on this tick box here, refresh data when opening file. Press the OK button and now at least every time you open this workbook, you can be sure you're looking at a refreshed pivot table and pivot chart. However, if you go into the data list and make any changes while you have the sheet open, then you must manually remember to right-click and refresh any pivot tables that are working off of that data.